am I really ready to go back?
Darren, this makes the third time that you've been on the podcast. I want to thank you so much. You get up so early in the morning. I know you have a lot to do here, being the GM of the club. This makes your third year.
Yes.
Third year.
Time flies.
Doesn't it?
Very quick.
And you gave a talk recently to the staff.
I did.
It's just started again, right?
Yes,
they used
correct.
to before.
Yes.
The new HR director came in and thought it would be a good idea to implement it again. I remember when I was president, they used to do that. Talk to the staff. How did you like that?
Yeah, good. A lot of fun. I mean, often it's the hardest thing is to talk about your own story, I find. I mean, obviously there's a story everybody can tell, but when you're standing in front of people that you're leading as a group in a business sense, it's often, I find, difficult to talk more so about your personal stuff, I think.
Really? Do you try to keep a separation between that?
Yeah, I do, and I think that's kind of a little bit to do with my upbringing as well, you know, and I guess the tall poppy syndrome that we suffered in Australia when I was coming up through management.
Now you call the tall poppy?
Yeah. So sort of as you were progressing your way through management, you were always sort of looking over your shoulder as to who was going to catch you out doing something maybe you shouldn't have been doing, or keep something up their sleeve for a later time.
To push you down.
Yeah.
That's the thing?
It was a thing when I was coming. I don't know if it exists so much nowadays, but certainly it was perhaps a bit of an overhang of sort of the way British also work in relation to business, of looking out for each other, but also being careful of what you share with people, and keeping your personal life personal and work.
Do we have personal lives anymore?
Not anymore. No, absolutely not. That's very different, right? I think that's changed a lot, and that's also part of growing, I think, as a person, and becoming more open with, you know, opening yourself to others, and perhaps not being so segregated in the way that you keep things to yourself or don't share with others. But that said, you know, I often do very much walk out the back door of an afternoon and leave everything here, and vice versa. Try not to bring too much of whatever's happening at home to work. It's irrelevant to me. It's my stuff, and that's the way I tend to like to keep it.
I used to have that policy when I had a large staff for our gymnastics program. I told them, the moment you get close to us, you're here, and I don't care what you've been going through, leave it out there.
Right.
That's harder to do nowadays.
It is. Yeah.
I think that's why they have all of these. I've noticed the other day, I just joined Google Workplace. It's in Shibuya. It's a free workspace you can go to. You have to sign up, and you have to give them all your information, and they have to do your evaluation or whatever it is they do, and then within about a week or so they say yay or nay.
Right.
Then you get a pass and you can go into this workspace, and they're looking for it's a startup space for people that are starting their companies, and for older people that want to help the younger people,
right,
or start their own again. When you're going through these spaces, you start thinking about the people, and they've brought so many open spaces. The banks are making it so you can go in the bank and sit there all day. I saw that in Shibuya. I think it's Rizona,
right,
one of the banks, and they have it so I'm assuming it's just an open space where you can come in, plug in your computer, and sit there.
Well, hopefully you're a customer of Rizona if that's the case.
In a bank. Well, I think they would think that if you're not, you may decide to become. If you're
interesting,
the longer you're there, the more chances of you becoming one if you're not. That's so interesting. It's really changing.
Yeah, it is.
And it's kind of hard, but I think we're being forced to.
Agree. And here at the club also, we're getting a lot more request and demand for that type of stuff as well. I mean, you would have noticed over the years, you know, especially after COVID, we see a lot more people now working in and around the club, for good and bad reasons. So currently we're working through, you know, with a couple of the committees to try and find a remote workspace to give as an option for our members, because there seems to be enough demand to do that. You know, and then there's others that will think, well, if, you know, let's not build this, because once we build it, more will come.
You can't take it down.
No. So, you know, it is very much a different way of doing business nowadays, and it's something that we all need to adjust to as life changes so quickly nowadays.
Right now, we've been using mostly the center of the club has been one good gathering group, and that's only for adults.
Right.
Children can't come in there. It's just interesting the way things are changing. It's so interesting. First of all, our attire. You know, I think it's much more casual now.
Yes.
I feel overly dressed, and I still enjoy wearing a tie every now and then. I don't know where the balance is.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, and of course, if you ask 30 people in the Winter Garden here, you'd probably get 30 different opinions.
Most of them would be casual.
A lot of them more so. Yeah, a lot of them more so. But again, I think, you know, a club and an exclusive club like ours, you know, there is a certain element of history and those sorts of things that do add to the weight of the exclusivity of the club, right? And again, that's not saying we should all be wearing bow ties and black suits every day, but it certainly is, I think, a big part of the club's history, and something that, you know, finding that match somewhere in the middle is very difficult, and I don't think it'll get any easier.
I don't think so either,
No.
because there's going to come a point where I think there's going to be a shift. We're going to all look like we belong to Star Trek or something. These ties are going to be done.
Right.
There won't be any ties anymore. You're just going to have a collar or something.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, you know, in Japan, of course, is the cool biz thing as well, right? Which,
And you see it depends on where you go.
yes, it
You can
does.
see a bunch of ties, or you can see guys out there with no ties, but they still are wearing their suits.
Yeah.
No one's coming in Levi's yet.
No.
Except for you go to Google
Right.
and places like that.
Different
It's the
industries, yeah.
Western influence.
Yes.
And maybe some of the younger companies, if they're apparel stores or whatever, that you'll see it. But outside of that, you won't see it.
No, that's true. That's very true.
They're staying very traditional here. And Japan tends to be one of the slower to adapt. They're
Yes.
still having a fax machine on your number on your card is still really, really prevalent here.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
they do it, and that's for security reasons too. You can't hack a fax.
Right. Well, maybe they'll come back in fashion.
So, what has it been like? Now you've been here 3 years. How do you feel? How do you feel you've changed or developed?
Enjoy, of course. You know, time goes very quickly. So, of course, if you could rewind the clock, there'd be a few things that I'd probably do a little differently. But that said, I think, you know, along with working with the board and the committees and other, you know, it's a collective thing here at the club, which is very different to a corporate world. You know, you are sort of given the baton and away you go, and you're fully responsible for every single move that you make. You know, and the club, of course, as the general manager, you still are, but you need to involve a lot more people and collaborate with a lot more people. So that tends to take time, and I think that frustrates us at times, both from a member's perspective, but also from the management's perspective. But I think if we wind back a couple of years, you know, 2.5 years ago when I first started, and you think we were still in the midst of certain restrictions, we couldn't serve alcohol, you know, to where we are today, where the club's got the most amount of members it's ever had, which is 4,100 odd, you know, and then by the time you add families, it's a lot, you know, and thankfully a lot of our members use the club for different reasons. So yes, we tend to have times where it's quite busy, but you know, 15 minutes in this club can make such a difference. So if you come 15 minutes earlier or 15 minutes later, it's a completely different experience. You know, lunch, for example, on the weekends. So we can continue to try and look for ways to obviously get more of our members to use the club more regularly, but at the same time, try and find a balance so that the members don't feel as though it's just a busy, bustling, you know, noisy place. And that's hard when you've got so many different members.
One thing that I've seen that's been a big change is our recreation area.
Right.
The free classes.
Yes.
When did you employ? That's phenomenal. I think that was such a good idea.
Yeah.
And it's well attended.
They're all booked out pretty much.
I know you
Yeah.
have to. If you don't book it, you're going to miss out because
Yeah.
just because of space restriction.
Correct.
And I've seen them in the gym with 40, 50 people, and one person in the center leading the class
Yes,
in a yoga
yes.
class. And I'm going,
Yes.
I love it. I think that's what the club is supposed to be about.
Yeah. Well, the whole, you know, the member value thing, of course, has been a big drive in getting members to come back and use the club, especially, you know, more so the Japanese than the foreigners. You know, that, as you mentioned before, a little bit slower to come back and all these sorts of things. But offering these free value for money classes to the members has brought a lot of people back. And again, we continue to look for different ways to try and spread it out over a different period to cover as many members as we can. But of course, we can't cover 13,000 people at one time. Thankfully, not everybody comes at the same time.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. How did we keep the American in the Tokyo American Club?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, right? I mean, we in fact are working now towards trying to bring some of that back. I mean, naturally, I'm not American. A number of our staff, of course, are not American, and one thing that we've been looking for some time is to actually bring in an American chef to help us with Americanizing the food. So that person will start with us this month, and that's fantastic.
You've got someone?
Yes, we brought some, and we're bringing someone in from the West Coast.
This is going to be here permanently?
Here permanently, yes, okay. Yeah. And so we had a small change in one of our restaurants earlier in the year. And again, listening to the members, and what the members were saying was that there was a lot of feedback about that we don't really hit the nail when it comes to American food.
You know who you'd get that from the most? The Japanese.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they do. I mean, it won't change. They've joined the Tokyo American Club because it is the Tokyo American Club.
Yes.
And they're expecting some remnants of what they remember as kids going to their homestay, or when they go to vacation, or some people had business there for several years. And the club somehow does a good job at times.
Yes.
But at times, I think there are points that we have that really sometimes are American, like our 4th of July.
Right.
No one does a better 4th of July.
Right.
No one has a bigger flag.
Right.
Those are good. And I think our father-daughter dances.
Yes.
That's very American.
Yes.
I think, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's done very well. But I think it's through some of our food and on the menu. I think it's sometimes that's part. We miss our hot dogs.
Right.
We do have the best hamburger. That smash burger, no one touches. And the quality of our meat, I think no one touches.
Right.
Because I eat all over here. It's hard to find better than that. But I think that's it. And the fact that we have over 60 different nationalities in the club, you have to ask people. You can't look at them and think automatically they're American.
No, definitely not.
Right?
Definitely not. Yeah, and I think that's one of the major, amazing points about this particular club. I mean, I come from a hotel industry where we see people coming and going all the time, but they're coming and going. And here at the club, I think it's actually now closer to 65 different nationalities in membership. And then in staff, we've got close to 35 different nationalities. So if you can find a more international, diverse place in Japan than this club,
it's very difficult. You cannot.
I don't think it exists.
No, it's not. Because even if you go to the military facilities, it's difficult because it's American.
Right.
They can't have, but some people can't. We don't have that limitation.
Right.
If they've gotten in Japan, you're okay here if you meet our criteria.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's really good. But we couldn't get the Russian ambassador to join.
No.
I tried to, because he came here during our opening of the new club. And he said that he can't do it for political reasons because we're in Japan.
Right.
And there are certain embassies that can't join because of that same reason.
Right.
They may not be in the best of terms with America or whatever, and just it would look like.
Yeah.
Even though we're not a political club at all.
No. I mean, you may have noticed we've introduced these new embassy nights where we're bringing in.
Fantastic.
We're doing it collaboratively across the club, and management, I guess, is probably taking primarily of the lead.
I remember
running it.
I remember that little bit. Well, wait, can you go into that just a little bit? It's not too
sure.
Because
so when I first started, one of the committees here approached me and said, could we do this? Could we do this? And then the other committee approached and said, could we do this and could we do this?
There was one more. I think there were 3 committees.
There were 3 committees in total that approached me, and I said, well, why don't we collaborate on this event and do a fantastic event for all of the members, as opposed to, it's a committee-specific event. Let's look after the membership. It fell on deaf ears, unfortunately, because neither of them wanted to work with each other. And we said, okay, well, we'll pick it up at another time. So we left it for a while, and then we decided to pick it up and run with it again. And of course, it created a bit of tension amongst the committees, but as well as the
who gets responsibility? Well, somebody's
Correct.
missing out on all this.
Yeah, correct. So it was an interesting time and a learning experience for me also about how clubs operate. But we managed to get it done, and we've just actually this weekend just gone. We had the second of our embassy night, which was the Jamaican embassy, and One Love, as in the Bob Marley thing, tie up with that. And both events have sold out, so which is fantastic, because again, I think management's job is to do as many events as we possibly can and get as many members involved in the club. And that doesn't mean that every member wants to go to every single event.
That's true.
Let's put on more quality events so that more members can use the club. So I think we're over that. We're through that now, and we'll continue on and start planning our next one.
Yeah, as my ear is always to the wall or to the pulse of the club, I've heard nothing negative about it at all.
Yeah,
nothing but but praise.
It's very good. So the reason, again, it was kind of the committees that originally brought this up, and then I'd shared with them with experience of working in hotels, where often you will do, a month-long promotion, for example. So I don't know if you noticed with this last one, we've actually got different items on each of the menus across the club as well. So we've taken the chef's menus and recipes and put them in to our weekly specials, for example. So we're trying to build it out so that, again, if you don't necessarily attend the gala dinner, you still will get an option to try some of the food.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So and that's something that hotels often do, especially if you're located sort of in an embassy area where you have access. And we are. So what a great way to, again, as the social hub of Tokyo, as it has been for 95 years.
Yes.
Why not expand on that and try and bring some of that back? So that was the main driver behind that.
Can you share with us who's going to be next?
Well, we've got a few lined up. We haven't locked in specific embassies at the moment, but we're talking to Italy, Germany, and a couple of others. Interestingly, some of these ambassadors have invited other ambassadors, and of course they all want to do one. But we need to, we need to work with countries and embassies that actually have, the whole key drivers behind that is the art, the culture, the food, and tourism. Yeah. Anyway, good. It's worked out well, and thankfully, I guess another big thing is the reopening of the restaurant upstairs, here, which was closed for nearly 3 years.
It was.
And for the right reasons. It was, heading into COVID, we were opening Nihonbashi. It gave the management at the time a good option to, move some of the cost. But we've managed to reopen that in April of this year, and it's doing okay. I mean, there's still some room for growth around the bar and other areas, and utilisation of the terrace and those sorts of things. But again, we just keep trying to add back things to bring more members back to the club. And interestingly, with this restaurant, 51 East, there's members that I've met there dining that I'd never met before. They'd not been eating at the club, or they'd been using the club but not eating, and I'd never met them.
So they came to try it out?
Came to try it out, and in fact we've now got members that quite regularly are back once a week or twice a week, entertaining or for personal use. So for me it was quite eye-opening to see that having this reopen again actually brought back again another group of members that perhaps weren't using the club as much as they were before.
Are there any particular nights that is more busy than others?
Sort of generally, like most restaurants, sort of Wednesday through to Friday tends to be the busier days. Okay. Monday is a bit of a struggle. But again, we're thinking of a few ideas as to how we can build that up and do.
Right now it's not open every night, is it?
It's open Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday it's open?
Yeah.
In the evening. So when I'm seeing it now, okay, so you start at what time?
So it's open from 5. The bar is open from 5 o'clock, and then dinner starts at 6.
Okay.
But the intention is at some point to try it, because again, our lunch, as our lunch can be very busy. Here
most definitely
at the club. So eventually, what we'd like to do is also open this for lunch to alleviate or give our members another area for them to come and dine in.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some great options at the moment, but again, with the amount of business that's coming in, there's times when people do miss out. So we want to expand that and open up other areas where they can use.
I'm learning because of the time I've been here now, and I'm learning to be a little more non-judgmental, because it's so easy to start to get polarized in your one area and your beliefs. But the more you see, the more you have compassion and understanding as to how hard it can be trying to run an organization where people have expectations and they're not transient.
Right, right.
They come here.
Yes.
What do you find some of the pleasures that you get from being in a club like this?
So unlike in a hotel, the transient part, so someone might not be so happy with their experience and they'll tell you about it, but generally that'll be the end of it. They'll go away and you never see them again. Club is a little different. We'll have people that might want to tell me certain things 5 or 6 times, to a point where we always try and accommodate, but of course we can't do everybody's request with so many different members. But again, I think members are a little different to a person eating in an outside restaurant, because they have an ownership part of it as well. They're invested in it, so they tend to be a little bit more understanding. Not always, but again, I think it's their club, so they also try to be a little more understanding that if we can't do it for them now, perhaps we can do it for them next time, or if you wait a while, we'll be able to organise something for you.
What about communication? Do you think it's getting better, or do you think it's still a big challenge to communicate to all the members?
Hard, yeah, it's hard. I mean, one positive thing that's happening, that's coming in the near future, is the club is going to invest in a brand new club management system, which is Northstar. Now, this is compared to what we're currently using, it served its purpose, but it's 20 plus years old. And it's not very user friendly towards the member, whereas this new system actually allows you to do so many things directly on your tablet if you wanted to do so, or on your phone if you wanted to do so. But of course, we will always still have the people there to be able to face have those conversations. And again, as the club grows with so many people asking so many different things, this just allows us another communication channel for people to search by themselves and perhaps find answers that they're looking for, as opposed to, we're doing regular emails and we've got our website, but not everybody has time to go searching on the website and those sorts of things. So I think we need to keep looking for, multiple ways of trying to communicate with the members and get them engaged in what's going on in the club.
Well, I belong to Audible, which are Audible books.
Right.
The club has the system in the library,
yes,
where you can check out many of the same books at no expense, no
Correct.
extra expense.
Correct. Yeah, so that was added during COVID. So, because of course a lot of people couldn't come to the club. So they got this, it's actually called Overdrive is the one that we use. Now again, primarily it's English books, but it does grow and expand. So, there's Japanese and other languages on there as well, but it's a fantastic service that we provide free to our members. And some like it, and of course some prefer to pick up the book. And
what I was going to say on that, when I say free, you remember I told you when I was president, I stopped that term because it isn't free.
No.
It's at no extra cost.
True.
Because we're paying every month to be here.
Yes, we do.
Just so all of you understand, in this members club, you have a fee for parking, you have a fee for just your membership dues. And do we still give the extra dues payment, or is that included? We used to do it twice a year for the staff.
No.
We stopped doing that.
No,
that's absorbed in the payment.
Yep.
That's spread out across. Okay, so that's why I stopped during my term the statements of free. I said no extra charge. We have so many different things here that from being a member. Reciprocal membership.
Right.
Over 200 clubs around the world we have access to.
Yes, and growing.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I
good.
mean, we're
We need
relatively
to have
pretty
people
selective.
really go around and check, because I checked and I found one that was not.
Yeah.
It had been on the list and they were non-existent.
Yeah.
I mean, they were there, but they weren't.
Yeah, so we're pretty selective on that now. And again, a club of our size is not that common, to be honest. I mean, when you look anywhere in the world,
right.
it's
they're smaller places.
They're much smaller places, and certainly of different quality. So we tend to use, the distinguished clubs thing as a guideline or as a hurdle, I guess, to get in, and then we kind of look at what sort of, we try to put some parameters in there as to, would our members travel to these particular destinations,
sense, right?
As opposed to just, a member visiting one particular town.
Because we know they'll come here.
Definitely, and we've seen.
I think they'll come here.
Yeah, and we've seen that, this year and sort of the tail part of last year.
Right.
Tourism, for anyone that's in Japan, has seen how much it's changed in the last 6 months, and the numbers of people coming into Japan now are higher than they ever were during COVID, or pre-COVID, sorry.
Right.
But it's a different mix, right? So, there's a very different group of people that are coming to Japan nowadays, probably more to do with the exchange rate. It's never been a cheaper time for foreigners to come to Japan.
That's right. And they're coming in droves.
They are.
There's no doubt about it, because when I drive around, you see them. One way to tell, in Tokyo, they have these scooters or go-karts.
Right.
And these are tours. People come over here, they get on these go-karts and go throughout the city, all the way over, sometimes even to across Rainbow Bridge.
Yes.
And they run all over the place. There's 3 modes of transportation that I've seen that change quite a bit in Tokyo. The new face of our mobile society here. And that's these razors that have motors on them. The bicycles that should be motorcycles.
Right.
That have big tires and have motors on there that are going easily 30 and 40 kilometers an hour.
Yes.
Right? And these go-karts. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And you see everyone on them.
Yes.
Yes. I saw one guy, he wasn't doing that razor any favor. He was a foreigner. I tell you what, and he was going uphill. I thought, if the razor could speak, he wasn't doing it any favors.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I went home for my first visit in 6 years,
right.
Just before we were speaking last time, and and again, I think it's part of this amazing appeal or thing about Japan. For example, these razor, their loop or whatever they are, the electronic things. You go home to my country, for example, and they're everywhere, but they're all laying around in the streets and
are they?
Yeah, they are. They dump them and leave them where they finished with them, and people come along and then tidy them up for the company that is working for them. But here in Japan, either there's not that many of them.
No, there's a lot of them, but they
they're
all have zones.
They're all zoned.
Because I would walk around and you'll see they've obviously negotiated it. They'll go to your apartment and say, "Can I use this space?"
Yes.
And they'll put a green line or something right in that area, and those bikes will be right there.
Yeah.
And on the app, they know from where to go. And in traditional Japanese fashion, from being conditioned,
Yes.
they will go to those areas
Yep.
and place. You'll never see one lying around on the street.
No.
Never.
No. I think that's partly why they don't put all the English instructions on them.
Which are?
so the foreigners can't pick them up and leave them in the street.
So you see them lying around?
Yeah, you do a lot. You do. I was quite surprised how many of them that you literally would hop on them with your mobile app and ride off to wherever you needed to, but you could leave it outside of any building, and then the next person would come and pick it up and take it to the next.
Oh, that's how they do it?
That's how they do it, yeah. Which then, they either fall down, and again, eventually, every morning you sort of come along and everything's been cleaned up, and things are back where they need to be. But
what were some of the other shocks? You'd been here 6 years in a stretch, and that can change the way you perceive things.
Yes.
What were some of the other things you found different when you went back?
It was interesting. It was a different. It was 6 years is a long time, and obviously 3 of that was COVID. But it was. I have to be honest and say it was the first time since I'd left Australia that I was standing at the airport thinking, am I really ready to go back? And that was a big to come back to Japan.
Oh, you wanted to?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed my time.
I have never, this is the truth, Darren, I've never met an Australian that did not say he loved where he came from.
No, I do, but I'd never felt as though...
no, but you love where you came from. I mean,
sure.
I've never met an Australian that didn't love Australia, is what I'm saying.
Sure. But most times I'd it's probably part to do with, you know, where I am in my life and my son's life and those sorts of things, and it kind of grabbed me. It was like it brought back a lot of great memories of growing up and the freedom and the open space and all those things. And generally, when I'd go home, I couldn't wait to get back to Tokyo.
Oh, really?
To go to work. And, you know, I loved it when I was there, but this was really the first time, and maybe it was just because it was such a long time, having been away, that it was the open space. And we took a good break. You know, the club was very generous and allowed me to have a nice break and be away for quite some time. And that was the longest holiday I think I'd probably had since I'd been working. So there was a couple of things that were part of it, you know, and being away from my parents and not seeing them.
And they were doing okay.
They're doing fine, yeah, but they're aging, you know, and all of those things. And you notice those things after 6 years, you know, a phone call and all these things which are fantastic that you can do any time now. But when you sit and have conversations with them,
watch them daily,
go out with them, and you know, you start to recognise these things. But thankfully, touch wood, they're doing well.
You got at the station and you thought, I could actually stay here.
Yeah, probably not forever.
You know, I mean, you'd get the itch again. You'd get the itch again, but it was that pleasant that you felt.
It was. Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm sure your parents are going to love to hear that.
Yes, yeah.
That's a good feeling. You have siblings too, you mentioned, right?
I do, just the one sister.
One sister,
yeah.
right.
And she's 2 years older than me.
She's close by?
She lives close to my parents, yeah, which is nice to know she's there.
That's right.
Yeah.
You'll get the message right away.
Yeah, correct.
If anything
happened.
That's right. Oh, that's good. So what are your plans going forward? Do you have any?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, you know, again, going on time goes very quick. So, you know, I think what we've achieved in the first sort of couple of years, 2.5 years, bordering on to 3 years, you know, we often forget where we came from. And I think it's very important to look back and think, you know, we've achieved a lot, and, you know, great members' satisfaction surveys and all these things which are very important, but we can't stop. We've got to keep moving forward. So, you know, things like bringing in the American chef, and, you know, in next year's budget that we're currently working on, we're looking at potentially adding more value-added classes
right.
for our members. You know, and a few other things like that. So I think, like everything now, the speed at which people or things change, but also people's expectations of, you know, adding more, which is fine, but then finding the balance.
I think that's why it's important that we have really good communication too, because I don't think that the people are unreasonable. It's just that if they have those gaps in communication and they're not told,
right,
you know,
right,
then you start to have the issues. Why didn't I know? Why wasn't this out there? But if the communication is very good and done in a proper way, I don't think you'll have much problem at all. And I see it's happening. We're getting a lot of information and people are starting to find out.
Yes.
So I don't know. Is that because comms is getting better or what?
Well, we're proactively asking for feedback. Right? I mean, I think, you know, the industry itself is reliant on feedback, and you can do what you like with it, but, you know, we really need to listen to what the membership is asking for, and try and cater to that to the best of our ability. Again, we can't do everything for everyone, but what we tend to look for is trends. So if we see a lot of comments coming in from the membership about, you know, they want to do hot yoga or they want to do a particular thing, then we'll look for a way to try and do a trial to see if it actually gets picked up. And then if it does, we'll build it into programs. If it doesn't, we'll dump it and we'll try something else. And I think that's, you know, what also keeps the membership interested in looking for new things, because if it's all the same all the time, then they don't go looking.
That's
and
true.
then people say, well, nobody tells me what's going on. So, you know, I think just keeping and trying new things and doing different things, and of course trying to communicate them to all of our members is an ongoing challenge.
So they know about it. That's so true, because I know we have pickleball, which is a new fad. We've had fencing for a long time, and people wouldn't know it.
No.
And we had a big tournament here.
Yes, we did.
Not long ago. It was huge. And squash has always been a big thing here.
Swimming.
Do we still do the badminton?
We do. Yeah, we do.
Okay, so
I don't know if you've seen the number of lines on the gymnasium floor nowadays.
I don't go out to the floor. I go into the music room, and the thing is, I don't go around as much as I used to. There's certain areas that I try to go to, but I'm here early. You know that. I come here early, and I'm gone by 12.
Right.
So I'm not, unless there's going to be a First Friday or a TAC talk now.
Yes.
I don't stay until the evening. And that time, I might stay all day, and I might look around a little bit then. But outside of that, I only see one group of people. There's people that come early in the morning.
Right.
The ambassador's part of that. Our ambassador comes first thing in the morning.
Yes, very early.
He's religious here. He comes, he's right there at the gate when it opens.
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wonder what their gym's like. No, I've been to it before. But he loves coming to this one.
Yes.
Every morning. Brings his wife too.
Yes, which is great.
That's
great
neat
to see him in and around the club.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll be here for our big 4th of July, which
I'm sure he will. Will he
Yeah.
be? Well, I won't put any pressure on you, Mr. Ambassador. So.
But again, we've got another, I think last year, again, we've come out of COVID, but certainly the show that we put on last year for Independence Day was, I think, blew a lot of our members away. And of course now the expectation is we need to do something better. And that's good. That drives everybody forward. So we're really deep into planning at the moment now for a big. We're bringing over a celebrity or a chef from New York to help out with food and all sorts of things. So again, we're just always looking for ways to build, and do something new. And again, when you're standing at the coalface of it often feels as though we're never doing enough. And some people will always think that we're never doing enough. But as long as we keep trying new things, it's
they
important.
can't say much. You take all the wind out their sail.
Yeah, yeah.
They cannot say much because they have to walk a mile in your shoes to understand that.
Right.
It's difficult, but I can see it, and I'm watching and people speak. They still speak to me. That's one of the advantages of being a past president of the club. Members still come, and some members don't know that I'm not still president.
Right.
And I can tell by the way they talk to me, they think I'm still president. But you get an honest opinion about what they feel, and I feel obliged to pass that on when I feel it's necessary, or to try to explain so they understand. But I think In Touch is doing a great job.
Yep.
They just go through In Touch and they'll find it out. Having the ambassador on the front cover, I think, was a great idea.
Yes. Yes.
I hope we can get her up here. I had the South African ambassador up here and the Israeli ambassador. They were both up here. And because of events here.
Right.
The South African ambassador was here, and the Israeli ambassador was coming because of the 4th of July, I think, event. Because he's very close with our ambassador, I think. Yes. They're very good friends.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And I think he was pleased that we didn't get into any politics at all. And I told him, I'm not a political podcast.
No.
And he was happy that we kept it really friendly.
Excellent.
Would you see anything else that you'd like to talk about, you think?
Well, again, there's a lot, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, of course, which unfortunately members don't necessarily get to experience. The building itself is now 13, 14 years old, so, things are starting to wear and tear a little, so we need to plan better for that moving forward. I mentioned before about the club management system. There's a lot of work in changing that over, of course, which will be a lot of back of house, but there will also be some training and adaptation from the members to use the new system. So we've got plenty on our plate to keep us busy.
Will this new system have AI attached to it?
Don't know whether it does.
The reason why I'm saying that because I'm developing one myself that I'm going to start offering to companies.
Right.
Where their websites can have this AI attached to it, because I'm doing it with mine.
Right.
And that's a game changer.
Indeed it is.
That is a game changer. And everyone can do that, but most people don't know how.
Right.
So when you have someone that can show you how to set that up, because there's a certain amount of training that has to go into it, and adapt an AI system to it, it puts you in a whole different world.
Yeah.
I didn't show you my avatar that speaks in 27 different languages. Did I show it to you?
No, you have not.
Okay, I'll show you when we finish this. And I might even include it. You won't believe it's not me.
Right.
I mean, doing it.
Right.
That's how good AI is now.
Yeah. I think in our industry, it's it's inevitable. It's going to touch every industry, no doubt. I guess the big, also hospitality is not always generally a fast adapter of new technology. It just tends not to be. Don't know why, whether it's an investment thing or whatever it may be. But, you know, and again, coming back to, I guess, our core role is about, you know, interaction, face-to-face, talking to people. I mean, you know, I love to get out on the floor and go and talk to people.
I'll tell you, you have done a fantastic job, Darren. I'm not just trying to appease you. You're out there, and also the person that you have out there helping you.
Yes.
You guys do a great job, because I never feel like, where have you been?
Right.
You pop up and you're there. And you're very, very sociable when you come out. You're not busy.
Right.
I've seen you take time, not only with me, but with other people, and talk.
Yes.
Because that's what you figure you're here to do.
Correct.
And other people, I've been through a lot where they think they're too busy and have to tell you that.
Right. Yeah, no, I enjoy that part of it. I mean, that's, you know, that's a big part of hospitality is being able to make the time, right? I mean, it's very easy to sit there and sit on the PC and do emails and look at numbers and all those
and try to justify that.
And try to justify it.
Right.
But, you know, hospitality to me is very much about being out there on the floor, you know, listening to the members or the guests, whatever the role is that you're in, and then taking that information away and thinking about how you can, again, give back, adapt, change, without just changing for the sake of changing. But I think it's important, you know, it's easy for someone to write an email when they're upset, but for me to walk out then and talk to them and say, well, you know, sorry, and here's what we can do to fix it, or what can we do to fix it next time, is very different.
That's right.
And that's something that I try to instill in the team as much as I can. And, you know, we've had some changes over the last couple of years. We've still got some to do. I think we've still got some ways to go in relation to how.
Were those changes on their own? Some of them encouraged?
Some, yeah. Some were. But, you know, again, I think the industry in Japan itself, of course, has gone crazy in the last 12 months.
Because you have so many hotels being built.
Yes.
5-star hotels.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and then you look at what rates they're charging and things now. It's people like us who have been in Japan a long time think it's very expensive, but when you compare to other international cities equivalent to Tokyo, like Paris, London, New York, forever and a day people used to say Japan, or Tokyo specifically, was underpriced.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So $700 a night is not too expensive for the basic?
No.
When I saw that, I went, where have I been?
Things have changed very quickly. What we often find here at the club is that a number of people that do decide to move on, you know, and we lose good ones as well, right?
You do.
And we don't like that. Of course we don't like that.
But there's nothing you can do about that, right?
There's something we can do about it, and that is ensure that we keep in contact with them and try and get them back.
That's right. Yes, never give up.
Never give up, because
they've had a good experience here. If they were good, that's true. You're so right.
Yeah.
That's good. You never stop. I think that's one of the biggest points. People think there comes a point to when you stop. It's like retirement. I think that's one of the biggest fallacies sold to mankind. And when people ask me when I'm going to retire, I say this: I am going to retire one day, and it's going to be when I go like this, and don't take one back in. That's when I'm retiring, because there's no such thing.
Right.
And the same thing. I like that idea. If you have good people, just give them your best tidings, but let them know they're always welcome.
Correct. Yeah, and the club and any business benefits from that as well, right? I mean, they go away, they see something different, they learn something new, and then if they really do enjoy the environment that we have here for the employees, you'd be surprised how many come back.
We got one.
Yeah, we get quite a number of them.
He'd been all over the world on these big ships and everything, and came back.
Right.
He's doing a fantastic job here. And he wouldn't have never done it had he not enjoyed his time here.
Correct, yeah.
But we kept in good contact. That's good.
Yeah. So that's important. And our industry is, you know, clubs tend to have a little bit more of a longer tenure, of people tend to stay longer than
hotels?
Generally than hotels. But the industry, the age, you know, there's many different things that are changing so rapidly now, and I will always encourage people, you know, obviously I would prefer they stay, but I'll always encourage people to go and try, because I was also given the same opportunity. and you live and you learn and you go away, and then you decide if the club is where you want to come back to, leave on good grounds, we'd love to welcome them back.
That's right.
And you know, we have seen quite a lot of people return to the club that thought, you know, go out and try new things.
That's right.
So yeah,
I've seen that on the male and the female side.
Yes,
we sure have.
Yeah, and that's good. You know, I mean, we're currently working through revising our sort of employee value proposition type thing of what it is that brings people or would attract people to here at the club. We had one, but again, you know, it was pre-COVID and things have changed, and so again, we're working through that to try and come up with something new and exciting to attract a new group of people as well. Yeah.
All of you that I've known that I've taken to other hotels, and you might have gone there, remember, you just heard the GM say that. You have an opportunity to come back here now. I think you should take him up on it. Come back. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, because we've had some good people. And I teased the other GM about cherry picking. Right. You know, guys, and they have no qualms about me bringing someone from here over there to show them that area. Right. But I do the same, bring people from there over to here. Yep. So you get to see the area and take them around. Yeah. And it's a big difference. That's something I've thought about. When we take people on a tour of the club, not that we have a problem with it, it'd be good if members did that. Members that the members know.
Right.
Then the people being taken around have a better idea of what they're coming into. Because everyone feels, if I'm going around with you and someone says, Darren, this, I'm thinking, and you're introducing me to people right away, it's a no-brainer.
Yep. Well, I don't know if you know, we used to do, a lot of members do take people on tours, right?
Oh, they do?
But we don't know what they're, you know, we think they're guests or whatever it may be.
Right, I know they do.
For example, you know, when I arrived here, we used to have a 2.5 hour orientation for our new members, and it was all about the rules. What you couldn't do and what you could do, and so we've changed that up and again worked with the membership committee on now literally my part goes for 35 to 40 minutes, which is more about a welcome. You know, these people have already joined the club. That's right? So it's a welcome and just to give them some highlights of where to find information, how we'll communicate with them, those sorts of things. And then we actually tell everybody to stay, mix, mingle and meet new friends. And some of the committee members attend those sessions and do introductions and, you know, start to build that sense of community back, which you know, we all know COVID affected so many people in different ways. I even now say in all our staff meetings, as well as our new orientation, is don't be afraid to say hello to somebody you don't know, because we often walk down the corridors and don't look at each other, and in hospitality, that's what we're trained to do every time. And we all forgot that a little bit during COVID, and it's coming back, but we've still got some ways to go.
Right. I'm surprised when I see people, because I sit in a place, usually I sit in a place that's very conspicuous. When I'm waiting down there in B1, they have to pass by. I don't let anyone pass by me with them. I mean, they try to get by.
Right.
And I'll say hello, hello. And even if they have on earplugs, I say it loud enough that they can hear me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just, and you'll see them sometimes say, oh, well, hello. And some people that can't wait. This is what's taking you too. Can't wait to see you.
Yes. Yeah.
I think this is a good thing. It's a social club.
Correct.
So we should be social.
Yeah. And I think we're getting there, but you know, but
it's not something you get to and you're done.
No,
you have to keep on working on it. So whenever you see somebody without a smile, give them yours.
Yes. Yeah. Agree.
That's how it is.
Agree.
Darren, I want to thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thanks for your time.
I want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast, and never forget, it's all on loan. So continue to reach for the stars.
Because you're too blessed to be stressed.